Welcome to 101. I'm Greg Bassey, your host for the Salisbury Independent newspaper. It's a big day here at PAC 14. We've got the boss of the county, Bob Culver, is with us. Welcome, Bob.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
So how's it going? You're the county executive. You're the guy. First time doing this job. You're 3 years in. Is it fun?
It's great. It's a great feeling every day to get up and see what you can do to help the county citizens and go from there. I enjoy it a lot.
And the word is you're pretty committed out there. You're working long hours. I see your light in your office there at 7 o'clock every morning. I think, I'm getting to work early, but this guy's already beat me in.
Well, we try to get in, I do, usually between 6:30 and 7.
Yeah.
And last night it was 9:30 before the meeting ended, so it was close to a quarter of 10 to 10 o'clock before I got home last night.
Now, what was the meeting last night?
This was the Volunteer Firemen's Association.
Now, I know you enjoy what's going on there. It's a big mess. Can you explain it to the viewers what's going on with the firefighters?
Basically, what has happened was the fire service agreement was written between the city and the county. At the time the service agreement was written, Station 13 was not a recognized company.
This is the renegade Salisbury Volunteers.
Salisbury Volunteers from Station 1 when
Right.
they left became that. So when that happened, I couldn't put them into a fire service agreement. But there was a gentleman's handshake between the city and myself as to what was going to happen once they became approved. But everything seemed to be like they were going to be approved. And for some reason or other, that has not turned out to be like that. They have their pumpers. They have everything. They're approved by the state. They're approved by the Chiefs Association. What they need is the territory. And of course, in our fire service agreement, we put that the county council and the city council and the mayor and executive did all the approvals on that. That was never my intention to have territory be approved by the politicians.
Right.
That's the last thing I wanted, and I think it's the worst thing we can do.
The Chiefs were supposed to do that.
The Chiefs have always done it.
Right.
We have a great volunteer association. If for some reason this volunteer association were to disband, Wicomico County could not afford the $14 to $15 million it would take to run the fire service in Wicomico County, and that's a very conservative.
Right.
That's not having to buy the equipment. That's just saying they have the equipment there.
Right.
But that's a very expensive operation. And these guys are great. They're wonderful people, and they care about the county.
Now, you kind of need them because you have a fire service problem developing at the airport.
Well, we're actually putting the airport fire service, the ARF, which is out there for the protection of the airplanes coming in and landing, we're going to put that out on RFP to get a bid. The same way that Wallops Island does. Wallops Island has a company that goes around and just takes care of airports. So we've got, I guess you would say we have a great in with this company from Wallops, but right now we're still going to put it out on RFP. But we have some volunteers from Station 2 and some from Station 1, and they are now out there. Right. Taking care of it.
Well, Lyle Hogg, the president of Piedmont, when he was talking to Greater Salisbury Committee, he said he could imagine a situation, because it exists at airports across the country, where there's a fire station at the airport, and the firefighters go out the front door into the community, out the back door to the airport.
Well, this was what I had originally proposed with the willing hangars that we have out there now, but at that time, that group was not willing to take that on because that's a lot further out than where they live, because they were looking at it as a volunteer service. I look at it as the fact we've got to have, 16, 18 hours a day, we've got to have firefighters, paid firefighters, sitting at that fire station at the airport. FAA will help us build a new fire station out there to protect that. That's one of the things that they would take care of. So it was a win-win in my opinion, but at the time they weren't ready. Now there may be some changes of minds coming there. So.
Well, I think the whole issue is instructive because the county and the city for years could not even get down to the table to talk about a fire service agreement. Your staff and the city were able to make one work.
We did.
And then you get a situation just here where last week where there's a vote and some of the city council members that said some really, I think maybe some inappropriate things about the county, and it kind of reveals not stresses in the relationship, but maybe a lack of respect or communication. It actually, to me, it fulfills all the suspicions you might have about the city through the things that they said in a public meeting.
Well, I'm tough. I'm not. That's not going to bother me personally. Now, taking the office of the executive and running that down,
Right.
that I do take that personally, and I did have some problems with that. I had several of the community's leaders text me that night right after the show was over with and said that they apologized for the city council,
Right.
and the wording that they used, and it was a lot of testosterone and bravado going around for a
Right.
few while, from the men and the women.
Right.
They all share the same thing, but you know, me personally, it doesn't bother me at all. But at the same time, to degrade the office of the executive because they disagree with one person or the other,
Right.
I felt was very inappropriate.
You know, I do worry because of stresses between the different branches of government that I spend as a reporter too much time covering the elbows under the basket situation, and I miss the issues, you know, talking about how people are getting along. An example this week was you came out with a proposal for some term limits. And rather than any discussion occurring about term limits, it turned into, well, who's he to raise term limits? Where did this come from? You know, we have a charter review committee, and no one ever talked about term limits.
Well, and then that's not altogether true because I did during the campaign when I ran. But now in the second year, the council had proposed 9 or 10 amendments, as we all know.
Right. 13, I think.
Was it 13?
Yeah.
The total number, and they were not vetted. You know, the last 45
Right.
days before the election, before we had to get them on the ballot, was when they brought them up publicly. I didn't want that. I wanted to bring it out now. I still believe in term limits, and I think that that was the appropriate thing to do. John Cannon came back out and said, you know, this is not, what, where did this come from? This is not anything new, but there was too many amendments going on the ballot last time to bring this up and confuse anything. So I want a good discussion. I want to go publicly with it. Someone said when I said that, you know, people are tired of things, they're tired of Washington, they're tired of Annapolis. We've had the same speakers of the House for 27 years.
Right.
Nice guys, don't get me wrong, but we need new, fresh ideas, and we need it in Wicomico County too. I mean, let's be honest, a good executive only lasts 10 years in the private world.
Right.
His ideals get burnt out. We need to keep moving, and there's a generation coming behind me that are a lot smarter than I am, that I would love to see them come on in and start doing it. But if we don't go out, incumbents normally have an advantage. If we don't go ahead and bow out gracefully and say it's time for you to take over, then what's going to happen? You know, how long does someone stay in these positions? Our longest council people have been 2 people. That was Henry Parker for 16 years and Stevie Prettyman for 16 years. Now, Joe Holloway will be running this time. That will be 16 years for him.
Right.
You know, I admire that and the tenacity and the willingness to give, but is it time that we get fresh blood? And that's what I wanted the honest discussion on.
Right. When the county executive form of government first came up, I was one of the people who thought whoever wins that seat will have it for life. I mean, I couldn't imagine anyone getting in there and not being able to keep that seat forever. But you knocked the guy off who had the job for 8 years, the first one.
Well, I did, but it was a political mood swing all across the country. It wasn't me personally. It wasn't anything against the previous administration. It was just a mood swing personally and a mood swing, you know, nationally that changed everything. So, yes, it could be done, but there was a lot of work in getting to be able to beat the previous administration. So, do we need that? I don't know. I mean, sometimes you spend more time on the job than you do on the issues.
Right.
And I mean, right now, I'll be announcing, you know, by September, end of September, that I'm running for re-election. So how much time do I put towards that? I love what I do, and I put a lot of times, but I want to be re-elected again.
Right.
So there was something came out in the paper that I said something about 6 years during that committee. I went to a lot of committee meetings, and
That's right. It was, the rumor was you said one 6-year term.
All I said was everybody has different terms. I mean, you look at senators; they have a 6-year term,
Right.
that type of thing. So that's what it was said. They dug up the minutes that, you know, they were never approved by the board or never approved by the group themselves. Those minutes were never approved. But at the same time, yes, I did say that. But I'm just using examples on different terms, different offices.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, I don't know if I support 6 years, but the 4
and it-
years has gone fast.
Well, it has done, but it's not that not that I was proposing 6
Yeah.
years. I just said, you know, we need to look at
Let's
everything.
talk about it.
Let's talk about everything
Yeah.
with it, and that's what I call good governance. I say when you stonewall, say no, we don't want to talk about it. What's the problem? We talked about chicken houses for a year, and we ended up just back where we were when we had that first meeting.
Right.
And you know, yes, everybody was heard, but now lawsuits have gone in and lawsuits have gone. So,
Yeah.
Was it worthwhile? I can't say yes or no, but at the same time, we did that, so why not bring a couple other things to the board?
Right. I go back all the time to that first meeting after you were elected where you came to the Chamber of Commerce with the County Council. And certainly it was a much different camaraderie was going on there, and you actually sort of declared that you're going to make them your cabinet, and you're going to actually focus on the strengths of each person to give you advice. We're a long way from that now, aren't we?
We are, and I had hoped that that's the way it was going to go. I really did. You know, each person has their own individual forte, and that I wanted to capitalize on.
Matt Holloway, you go to him for agriculture.
And I still do. I
John
still
Hall
call him
for
that.
the airport.
And all of them
Kilmer
are
for
very
budget
good.
stuff.
He's good. They're all good in their
Yeah.
own right. I asked to do that. You know, I realize the Sunshine Law says I can only meet with 3 at a time without, you know, a quorum.
Right.
That's fine. But I went to the president of the council, and he says, no, you decide and you bring it to me, and then we'll decide on it. You know, I'm sorry, that's not what I really wanted, but I don't have any right on what he wants to do or not do.
Right.
So we have proposed several times that we meet, and I asked again if we could meet. Some things you want to talk about a little bit in private so we don't go out there looking like a bunch of clowns. And whether it be land acquisition or what we've got to do, you know, to spend money here, so how do you do that in the budget? And they want to do everything on camera, which is admirable in one sense, but you've got to be able to sit down and know where your figures are.
Right.
You know, and it doesn't hurt to sit down and talk. I mean, we need to communicate regularly, but we don't. We see each other every 2 weeks, and that's about it.
The only frustration, I think, from your initial agenda that I could imagine you having was with the economic development. You really wanted to do some more stuff with that, and I don't see as much going on as I would think. Am I wrong?
Well, not entirely. We had wanted to put an economic developer in.
Right.
We could not find him for the money that I was allowed to use. Okay, we couldn't find it for $80,000 or something like that.
Right.
I had gone on and rented the building across the street where the city has now utilized.
Right, the tourism center's there.
Right, and I'm glad the city could move in and take that. And we actually sub-rented from the city for a while until we were able to get some office space freed up. But with that, we couldn't find the position. And SWED, Dave Ryan is an excellent promoter. He does more behind the scenes than people have a clue.
You know, that's the key. He does so much behind the scenes, and all of us think he's not doing anything. But then once you get part of his world, you realize that he is.
Yeah, and I would say between Dave Ryan, we meet regularly, and I love to talk to him because he's got all the answers when it comes down to how is this going on.
Right.
We have probably brought in about 200, 250, 300 jobs. I mean, good jobs,
right.
You know, from manufacturing to other places that we utilized jobs. So yeah, I'm very pleased with that. It's not happening overnight, but it's happening again. We didn't get where we were overnight. We're not going to get out of it overnight.
Right. And Labanal closing was an early blow, but it seems like DeVrecco has a good plan for that building.
It appears so, and I'm excited for them. I hope Palmer and the boys all do well over there. I'm sure they will. I mean, I went last night to the opening of the Chesapeake Health Lab.
Yes.
Oh, beautiful building. I mean, Gillis Gilkerson did a wonderful job with that building, and we're lucky to have a firm like Palmer here to do that. And now Brad and Joey and all Chris taking over. I mean, that's great.
Right, and when you talk to those guys, the profit they make is through those medical buildings, so they can reinvest in downtown, and take the risks, on those other buildings.
Yeah, well, it's true. I mean, and they have taken risks. I mean, let's be honest. Palmer probably could have cashed out a long time ago.
Right.
But I admire him. I mean, we went to college together, so I know how old he is, and I know that some days you just kind of feel like let's stop for a little bit. But he's a great mind, great creator.
I do get frustrated when people say, "Oh, they're making all this money downtown," and I'm like, "Well, then you go invest in downtown, then."
Well,
I don't think they are making all this money, but I like that commitment.
Well, I do too. I like their enthusiasm. I'll be the first one. I've told Joey, and sometimes I don't agree with everything. Brad and I sat down a couple of times, and we're going to see eye different. But then again, there's 40 years age difference.
Right.
So let's be honest with that. We're going to think differently. We were raised differently in that sense. So.
Yeah, I look at Joey. He's like Joey Gilkerson. He's like 29, and I imagine trying to think what I was doing at 29.
It wasn't developing like those boys.
No,
are. Yeah, so.
No, I had no sense at all of business like they have. Just amazing.
Yeah, so.
It feels to me like the council doesn't understand your role versus their role. So they're like always testing you in terms of who's going to be in the driver's seat. You're in the driver's seat.
Oh, good. You have the same feeling too, huh?
Well, that's how it should be.
I don't know how to put it in a tactful way, but they need to read the charter and understand what the charter says. The executive form of government, whether you agree with it or not, leaves the executive functions to my office. They are strictly legislative. They have control over a lot because they have control over the budget, and there's no denying that. But
right.
As far as telling people what to do, department heads, that kind of stuff, they have no right in doing so.
Right. Now, you were on the council for a long time, so, I mean, you probably understand what they're up against. They'll be out socially. Someone will say, "What's going on with this thing at the airport?" And they'll go, I don't know, and no one's told us yet. You probably went through that as a council member.
Not really. I mean, I'm willing to sit down and talk to him.
Right.
You know, and as Wayne was when Rick was in, we sat down and we talked. We don't talk. This council and I don't talk. I mean, that's the problem. It's all adversarial when you try to do something. But it's come out in your paper that I was one of the probably challengers of the previous administration. I was, but it was always on issues. It was never on personalities, and I'm afraid that that's where this has gotten, personalities.
Right. Because
they don't agree with me. They take it as a personal type thing rather than a position type of mine.
Right. Now, the council president, Bob Cannon, John Cannon, they're twins, Bob and John.
Yeah.
You've done them your whole life.
I've known John since he was, Sally and I are same age, and I know Sharon. I talked to Sharon yesterday, and she's done a fantastic job with the dental health program going here. She's taken that over. So I actually had a conversation with her yesterday about something. So it's not that I dislike John. Please don't think that. I don't. He's a nice guy, but at the same time, we differ on our ideas and how we come about that. You know, I'm very conservative. I don't play to groups just for votes. You know, I play by my rules as a conservative person and as a business CEO. As I've told you before, I don't look at this job as being political. I look as if I was hired as a CEO to do a $147 million company.
Right. And
I run it the best I can, and not all decisions are easy. I mean, I love to hire rather than fire, but I've had to let some go. I've had to move some around, that kind of thing, and that comes tough. There's not all nights. We don't just sleep in la-la land all night. You know, there's some tough decisions that keep me awake, but we do it, and we do it the best we can.
The budget process this year was different somehow.
It was. Usually in the past, we have formed the budget, and Wayne will go in and sit down on a meeting with each.
This is Wayne Strasburg.
Wayne Strasburg, I'm sorry.
County administrator.
He's the county administrator, and he will go down and sit down and go over each department, along with that department head too. They can call whichever department heads they want to. This was aimed at several different things. It was, again, they cut out $100,000 out of Parks and Recreation, and yet they're all right there wanting to say rah 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 for the USSSA tournament. You know, it's like, how do you justify your actions when you're out there wanting to meet Mr. Dow and the rest of them, and at the same time you just cut $100,000 out of their budget. Mike Lewis is, the 15 cars. All I'm trying to do is get us back up to where we should be.
Right.
That's just not something. I don't like buying 15 cars a year, but we've got cars sitting out there with 180,000 miles on them. They're Crown Victorias that were 1999s, 2005s, that kind of stuff. How do you justify sending an officer into a hazardous situation with a car that may or may not start?
Right.
Something like that. So I'm excited to try to get the sheriff's office back up, because they are our first line defense on anything. Whether we have a hurricane, they're right out there helping people too.
Right.
So.
And the council's attitude was, well, we gave him 10 cars, not 15, but the sheriff knows what he needs. He's the expert.
The sheriff knows, and he knows how many people he has in there. I mean, it's like, let's give the example of the corrections department. This is right after the Vaughn Corrections Center, with all the problems. I was able to take away they had a rule called 171, and that meant that they had to work 171 hours in a 4-week period before they got overtime.
Right.
I removed that. Now that cost the county about $400,000. $250,000 of that money was towards their overtime pay exactly. The other $200,000 went towards medical help, mental health problems that we have at the correction facility. When an officer comes in, he's like a correction officer 1, CO1, CO2, then you get to be master correctional officers, that type of thing. And there's pay with every step that you go up, just like anybody else. When you go from a clerk to a salesperson, you make more money, that type of thing, whatever your business is. The council decided to take away their pay increases. It's like, I don't know how they can justify that. I mean, these guys put their life on the line every day working with some of the worst people we have in the county, or in that jail. How do you tell the guy, well, we don't think you should get a pay raise today, just keep doing what you're doing, and we'll do it that way. We have got to catch up somewhat. Now, over my 3 years I've had here so far, we've been able to get 3 COLA increases. One was 3%, one was 2%. So that's 5% that we've gotten them up. But that's not all that they've gotten. They've gotten a better health plan. They have a wonderful health plan.
Right.
And anybody would challenge us to tell you not so. So that they know that they've got a good plan. Is it up to private industry? It's not up to private industry when times are booming, like
Right.
2006, 2007 before. But when times went down the tubes, it's way up there. I have truck drivers that said, well, I can go so-and-so and work. Well, go ahead, but you'll be the first one laid off too when times get tight. And this is a cycle. They're saying that 2019 could experience a small recession. Wicomico County and the shore has always been very lucky. A lot of times we miss those recessions, the hard parts. I mean, the city hits them, Vegas would hit one, New York would hit one, but we would sort of mellow through. Yes, we'd see a little bit of lull in sales, that type of thing, our house building, but never hurt so bad. This past one hurt us all across the country. So
Right.
I'm preparing for that possible lull in 2019. Whether it comes, whether the stock market does a recorrection on itself, I don't know. I do know that we'll go to bond again in October. Last year we were a AA2.
Did great last year with the bonds.
We did great. We got a lot of write-ups from the company.
The write-up is very complimentary of how the county's run.
They feel that we have done very good management, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah.
We are conservative. We have increased our rainy day fund, so to speak, our unreserved fund,
Right.
by 46% since I've been in.
It's a pretty healthy number.
That's a great number. People have said, oh, you're going to break us. No, I'm not. I'm spending more money, that's true, but I've also saved more money.
Right.
The birthdays, the tax, the cars, but things like that. So we have saved money, and we have increased our savings account by 46% of where it was. It was like 28, 29 million. It's now up to 38, 39 million dollars. So $12 million more that we have put away for savings.
No, well, like the teachers look at that reserve and they go, well, that's money that could go to education. How do you answer that?
Well, I don't know where the Board of Education has been shorted on anything. And I told Dr. Hanlon, where did you come up with $1.7 million to move Choices? She had told me about
Choices Academy.
Choice Academy.
Moving it into Salisbury.
But I just said, where did the money come from? Well, we had it. Well, where did we have it from? This addition to Bennett Middle. Yes, I was the first one that said I'd like to see Bennett Middle remodeled. I lost the vote, so I've been in 100%. Let's go ahead and get it done.
Right.
I have seen the projections up to 2020 on the children, that kind of stuff. We've had the same projections. What happened? Why did we miss it that we have $1.4 million left over that we can go ahead now and add towards it? I talked to Palmer just yesterday. We were texting back and forth. He cannot believe that we're spending $900 a square foot to add 1,585 square feet to a cafeteria.
Right.
I mean, that's big money.
They're going to enclose in that porch.
The outside area there, yeah. Bennett Middle's a beautiful school. Well, I take that back. It's not, but it's
very functional.
It's very functional. That's a better word for it. Yeah.
It's like a Volkswagen Bug. It's very functional.
So, but at the same time, we've got it. Let's go with it, and let's make the best of it. But I just can't understand where that came in. But I guess every board of education, we're going to see now when we have an elected school board this year, how will things turn out? I don't know. So
yeah. So you hear the council, they're kind of critical where they'll say, well, spending's way up. Bob is spending more money than ever, but there's reasons for that.
Well, there is. It's gone up roughly $14 million since I've come in, but all of that has been mandated, with the exception of very little. There's been $3 million more to the Board of Education, mandated. There's been $800 and some thousand that we had to cover of the sheriff's steps, and that was from the FOP agreement. There has been money that had to go to Warwick Community College. Over $1 million had to go there. That's what we owe every year.
Right.
Not every year, but this time.
And that wasn't the tuition, that was the state thing to make an equity thing.
The equity thing between Worcester County and Wicomico, we all kicked in on that. So we owed all those things. So everything that went up. Now, there's only two things that you could say that may or may not have had to go up. There was the $212,000 towards Warwick Community College for the scholarship fund. I still personally feel that's a very great asset to help students. I hope to bring that before the council this year to actually expand that and go in the sense of opening it up for older people to come back, as well as to go ahead and do workforce training.
Right.
So that
and that's the kind of thing. That's an investment. It's not really a spending thing. You're investing in a long-term.
Sure, we're
training
investing in our people.
Right.
That's what it's all about. So. So whether you agree with that part or not, that's the only other thing. There's been $5 million that we have allocated towards buildings. We have $1 million going towards the old courthouse. That's where that costs. We have money that had to go on a couple $100,000 for a new roof on the County Extension Service.
Right.
$600,000 for new air conditioners for the courthouse. Things like that. It doesn't take long to go through $5 million. So all in all, if you add up everything that I have spent, that $14 million, it was all either mandated or taken care of in maintenance. There was $11,000 that went towards something which could have very easily been that office that I hired, for that.
But in a $14 million budget,
Well, in $147
I'm sorry, $147 million budget, we're talking about $11,000.
Yeah, $11,000.
And that's not to negate $11,000.
No, 11,000 is just as important as 11 million to me. But
Right.
at the same time, it was money that was used either to. We hired a public relations person last year to help write our message to the bond hearings, and we'll do that again this year because being able to get our message over to the bond people, the bond investors, is very important. I mean, if we can't tell them what we're doing and how we're doing it, they're not going to look at us as such a good rating. And as we've talked about, we have a AA2 rating, and they have commented on how well they feel our management style is. We've been very conservative. We've helped increase our infrastructure, that type of thing. So yeah, we're good with that.
You mentioned the tax cap. We're 17 years into it now, which I can't believe. Well, revenue cap. Talk of getting rid of it. I'm not sure it's serious. I don't hear from many people who really want to get rid of it. What do you hear about it out there?
Politically, I know of no one that's willing to bring it forward. I'm not going to bring it forward.
Well, like Rick Powell always said, it came from the voters originally, so it's going to change. The voters have to do it again.
And it's got to come from either a ground roots type of swell. It's not going to happen from Greater Salisbury. It's not going to happen from Wicomico County Council or the Executive's Office. I can't see it coming up. The biggest fault was, again, you mentioned it just by accident, tax cap versus revenue cap.
People don't understand it.
The tax cap would have probably been a better avenue to have gone than a revenue cap. Revenue means you just can't make any more money than what it says.
Ties your hands.
But what's going to happen is if we ever have a year of high inflation, we're going to feel it strong.
Right.
But again, I go back to the fact that if people are confident that you're a good steward of their money, they will trust you on this. And that's where we've got. It's going to take years to get to that point, but it will get to that point if we can continue on, just not wasteful spending and that type of thing. And not that we're doing any wasteful spending, but just the fact that people perceive that. Perception is 90% of anything.
Right.
And if you gather that and you learn that, then you're going to be successful.
Yeah, I thought when the alcohol thing came to the Civic Center, there'd be drunken melees out there, but it's been very responsible.
It's been very responsible. And again, our country concerts seem to do the best. I thought the truck pull and all the monster truck would do well. Not so much as compared to that. I mean, people would get a beer, people would get a glass of wine, that type of thing. Now, we're able to serve alcohol with the dinners that we do, and that's helped out too. It's not been the cash cow that some people thought it might be at first, but that's okay. We'll slowly get into it when the Civic Center.
Well, you don't sell it at the right time. You can't, like Disney on Ice, you can't buy alcohol. That's when you need it.
And last year,
at least that's when I need it.
You might want to cut that part out. I'm not sure, but anyhow, the best part of that is like say we were already booked last year for our concerts, that kind of stuff. You book a year in advance. So
right.
This year, Chuck Russo will start booking concerts that will utilize that alcohol addendum to that contract. So that'll be better. We can get more money because we do have that coming in now.
You floated a hockey idea. How's that going?
Well, we're still waiting to hear. We've had one company that Wayne and I went and talked to seriously, and interesting. Not quite sure where that's going to go yet, but they're a local company that has decided they would like to investigate. We compared what was done with the Maryland Stadium Authority, that type of thing in Berlin. They still say it's a hard nut to crack because of the people here. How much will they pay for a ticket? Can it be done? How much rent's going to be ascertained? That sort of thing. Wicomico County would we're not going to own any part of a hockey team, and I think that was a misconception. A lot of people thought we were going to start a hockey team. We're just going to be the facility that
you're renting the hall.
We're renting the hall, and that's it. And we will make the money off the concessions, that type of thing. The concessions alone, they estimate from a normal hockey game, a person will spend roughly $8 per person. They think that we could probably have somewhere in the range of 2,500 people a night.
Right.
If you add that up over the 28 sessions that they have, games that they have, Wicomico County stands to gross $750,000. In the concession business, that's netting about $350, $400. That's not a bad, start. But if that's all we got, I'd be tickled to death with that, just to make it more nights available, more use out of the Civic Center. So the more we use it, the better people. It's the people's building, it's their building, and whatever we want to. I'd love to go back to the old boat shows we used to have.
Loved it back then.
The auto shows, you remember we used to look forward in September to see the new auto shows. Of course, they come out year round now, but I'm sure Pohanka's a great sponsor of the Civic Center, and we could probably talk to Sandy and get a car show put together.
Yeah.
So I think, and make the tickets enough to cover the maintenance and that type of thing, and let it be $3 to $5 a ticket.
Remember we used to stand in line to get into the farm and home show.
I'm sure we did. And maybe this year you'll get to stand in line again for that. So hopefully so, with 20,000 people.
Yeah, I mean that's really exciting.
But yeah, it's all going good, and it's just, you just can't get there too fast, and I understand that, but it's patience that you need to get there.
Yeah.
And we're getting there very quickly.
And the lobby improvements were needed.
They needed to be kept up so that we could, live on with these things. The old courthouse, I mean, it was falling down. The roof was rotten.
Right.
Water was coming in the 4th floor. Now that building is controlled by the court system, and we have no. People say, well, why not make it a museum? It's controlled by the court system, and
Well, I've been told the judges feel like they own that building.
they do feel like that.
Yeah,
Yes,
and they just tell you how much to spend there for them.
They work on that, but that doesn't always go. But yeah, it is being controlled by them. There's a courtroom in there, courtroom number 5. We're working on the new courtroom now on the bottom floor where the state's attorney's office was. That has come from $1.7 million to $2.5 million now. So we're working on that. When chief judges changed, then the whole plan's changed. So we've got to try to get that in. But Judge Sarbanes has been great to work with. We're excited about working with him and trying to come up with some plans to value engineer it and get what he needs, but yet get it so that people can afford it.
It seems like that whole annex, this is personal, I want to talk about this, that whole annex, that something needs to happen there where like the state's attorney's office went and built a new place down the street, when really it seems like you could have renovated the old jail or done something with the, that part of the courthouse. Any plans, any thinking on that?
Well, again, it's controlled by the judges, so we can't go in there and say we want to remodel that and work on that, but we have to work through them.
Have you been up there? I need to get up there.
The jail? Yeah, I have. It's interesting. It's gotten to be used for storage over the last several years, our last 20 years, I should say. So there are some files from planning and zoning. There are some files from county council. Every department has files up there, HR department. So what we need to do is to get those all taken out because they actually draw bugs, that kind of stuff. So we need to clean that out. But it is interesting because, for those of us that remember the shooting, the sheriff.
Yeah, sheriff didn't kill the elevator there. Yeah.
It's been very interesting to go up there. And do you remember how the prisoners used to yell to the ladies on the street?
I've talked about this before, where I remember walking with my mom on Main Street when I was a kid, and we would cross the street. We'd be like coming up from the Boulevard Theater to go to where the plaza is now. And she'd make me cross the street, and I never understood why, but it was because of the slats. The inmates couldn't see you if you were straight down, close to the building, but they could see you across the street, and they would yell at you. Can you imagine a situation where people in jail can yell at people downtown?
Not anymore, anyhow. But it's amazing up there. The old bars, the old cell, and the one I believe it was Mr. Bartholomew. Was that his name that did the shooting that time?
Yeah, it was actually. Yeah,
his cell is still there, and you can see just where he was placed at the time.
Wow.
I mean, it's amazing up there. So, and where Sheriff Graham lived, his quarters is the part that had the leak in the roof, and unfortunately, but we're going to work that out too.
Right.
So,
and that was I've looked at old campaign brochures in Worcester and in Wicomico. If the sheriffs had a wife who could cook for the prisoners, that would help them get elected because it saved the county money. They didn't have to hire a cook. It was like the family would take care of the prisoners. It's just an amazing thing.
I can't see Warden George's wife cooking for 380 people now, but anyhow, so it was a whole different time back then, a whole different era.
With the scaffolding up, have you gotten up to the clock tower at the courthouse?
I didn't myself. The men have, yes. Everybody else. We just found out we had to take the cupola down because it found some rotten wood on it.
Oh, it's going to come down. Okay.
Well, it's down now,
okay.
And it's going back up probably next week. They've rebuilt the cupola to go back. We couldn't get the lightning rod in there.
Okay.
After last year, we feel that it's important to make sure we have a lightning rod on there. So
lightning hit the building last year and caused a lot of damage.
So we're putting that back together, but it's going to be close. It's, we're working on some of the pavers out front now that they roots had knocked them out and that kind of stuff. So we've got those fixed. They're working on that. but we'll do the uplighting, that type of thing, the last couple of days before the opening.
Right. Greater Salisbury Committee is helping with the uplighting as
They
part
are.
of the anniversary. You've been very involved in that.
Yard designs, Brian LeComp and Mike
Right.
Dunn, who put a lot of this together, and we give them a lot of credit for it. So hopefully by riding down Route 13, you'll be able to see the clock tower and all now.
It's going to be great.
It's going to be unique. So, and that's something that we can say, and those young people now can say in 200 years, I remember when that was fixed up for that, so for that year. So it's going to be good, all good.
I think exposure has a lot to do with it. I was at the jail a couple months ago for the first time in forever. Took a nice tour there, and you're right. The officers that worked there were so happy with this overtime change, and just the morale there was completely different. They said, and they were very appreciative of you of recognizing that problem and trying to solve it. The warden up there, George, they were very complimentary of you guys. So they seem to appreciate that effort.
Well, they do, and of course you don't make everybody happy. We still have some things, but
Sure. That's a hard job.
That's a tough job they do, and I've told them I don't want to do it. And I don't know that I could do it, but I respect the fact that they do. I'm not a sheriff. I'm not a firefighter. All of these people that do that. I'm a businessman, and that's where my ability lies, except for being an old-time farm boy. You know? But at the same time, I admire what they do, and I respect what they do, and I want to pay them for what they're worth. All I ask is for a good day's work out of a good day's pay. And, other than that, I have found that I don't know what they do. There was a lot of talk about Bob needed to get his lazy butt off the 3rd floor and come out there to the USSSA tournament, because let him sit out here in the hot sun. And I did. I went out there. I worked with them for a day. Great time. They are fantastic guys out there, and they work hard.
Yeah.
But they were upset because of they having to wear long pants.
Right.
And I'm sorry, but that's an insurance regulation. That's not me. I mean,
It's a liability issue.
it's a liability. Had they backed up next to a muffler or something like that, yes, it was hot and it was a long day, but
But you're the mean guy making them wear pants.
well, they think that, but it's it's not me. It's the insurance company. I'm trying to keep the insurance company premiums down, and by doing that, you have no idea. Just sometimes the little things that you can do can really save you some money on a workman's comp insurance, because now the workman's comp insurance feels like we're protecting our workers as well as we can, so that they can keep the premiums down for us. So that's been good, and we've had less accidents, we've had less burnings, we've had less cut legs, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But it is hot. It's miserable some days out there.
You've been pretty aggressive on this infrastructure thing, the expansion of Henry Parker. Looks like you're going to get a land donation there that's going to help with that, or something's going to happen with some land there. Landfill, I guess, needs to be expanded, so there's going to be some activity there. Shorebird Stadium, the state kept forgetting to put money into the budget, however that happened, but you forward funded some stuff. Same thing with the airport. So it looks like you're looking around at the infrastructure stuff and taking action.
I feel like I am. I guess if I were to tell you what's been my biggest fault during my first 3 years is I'm not getting out enough to tell people what we're doing, in the sense that the airport is a big thing, and everybody will admit that that's an asset that we need to keep. So why hasn't it been done? I don't know.
And most people don't understand the airport because it's really complex. You think it's easy.
Yeah.
Just pave a runway. How hard can it be? But it's really hard.
600 feet cost $6 million.
Right.
It's like, wow. I don't.
Right.
But with all that taking effect, Dawn, our new airport manager, is doing a fantastic job.
What a great hire.
She has got some connections, and that we all would love to have, working on an airport facility. But we have a good crew out there, a good staff, and they work well together, and we're excited about it. I mean, it doesn't happen again overnight. We've got to get water out there. Then we get the bigger hangars out there. Then can we start bringing the bigger jets in? It's a progression thing, but somebody's got to start it. And I guess that's me, and I have no problem doing that. I mean, I've taken some hits for it, but it's okay. 10 years from now, maybe we can come back and say, well, that wasn't a bad idea. You'll never hear people say that are hitting me, but the alcohol at the Civic Center.
That's worked out really well.
We've had no problem whatsoever.
That was like the third rail of politics around here. No one would touch that thing, and you did it. You just did it.
I did. Good or bad, I did it. And,
Yeah.
I give a lot of credit to Paul Wilbur for actually reading the deed,
Right.
and finding out that was not a codicil in the deed that we couldn't overcome. So with that, I mean, we have great hires in the county. We have great department heads, and they're all, we talk regularly. What is it that your company or department needs for us to move forward? And we're good with that, So, I mean, it's those little things. Barron Creek's another example. The art of negotiation, we'll call it sometimes, but we had a couple council people going out very strong. Oh, we need to build this back. We need to build this back.
I never would have built it back.
But at the same time, I'm behind the scenes negotiating with the
Right.
property owner.
Who is not an easy negotiator.
It was not easy. He tested me a lot of times on that, and it wasn't until we
I
finally
understand there might have been some hang-up calls involved there.
Well, I'm sure it was Verizon. They had some weak lines there at the time, and they worked on that. But it wasn't until I finally got MDE involved, and they sent the owner a letter saying that if the county does not clean it up, you're responsible for it because you're in
Right.
it. Well, because that's $1 million cleanup,
Right.
and all of a sudden things started to change. But it was knowing where to pull the right string to make the deal work. So we went by the appraisal, and he was very happy with it. So whether we keep the house or not, I don't know. We may end up flipping the house out. You know, all we want is the road. So
And the easy thing to do is what I would have done: just leave the dam out, make it into a wetland, and that would be the end of it. But you guys have, with minimal investment, are going to protect that asset.
well, pretty much so. We're trying to work with MDE and DNR. We're keep the little fish swimming, that kind of stuff. So we got that. But yeah, it's going to be fine. And the people in Mardell, it's something they're used to, and we're going to put it back for them. But we've got to go through the proper engineering. It's a lot different now than what it was when that was originally built. So
You won't tell me, but it's an election year. You'll have a budget that you'll present. Going to have a tax cut?
no. Right now, I'm not planning. I wasn't planning on a tax cut last year. I know several people thought that I was trying. The council went out to beat me
They
for
wanted
it.
to get ahead of you on it, yeah.
And it's funny. I'd asked the previous administration, is there a way of locking it in so people can count on what you're doing? As symbolic as this tax cut was of the penny, it's worthless. I mean, what's $10 on a $100,000 house? It doesn't mean a whole lot. But what it did do is that next time we have to go back to where we need to be, it's going to cause a 2 or 3 cent tax raise.
Right.
I personally would rather know what my payment's going to be. What is my monthly? You learn to count on things. And that's where I had tried to keep it. I just tried to keep it at the same tax rate that it was established when I came in, and I was hoping to do that. And because of that, we've been able to put some money aside. Some people will argue that maybe that's too much money to put aside. Not when you can save 0.5% or 1/4% at a bond rating and save, when we're borrowing $20 million a year, you add 0.5% on that, that adds up quite a bit. So my goal is to get our debt service down a little bit, be a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more breathing room. What we build next will probably be a sheriff's office. That's what we're working on now.
Right.
Our sheriffs are housed in a building that a 75-mile-an-hour wind would
It's
take.
a farm building.
Well, it would take it away. I mean, Palmer was.
I think the pigs in the Bassett farm live in a better building than the sheriff's deputies.
Well, Palmer, he's such a good builder, but like I say, when he built that, I believe Blades or somebody built that at the time, but he says it's only good for 75-mile-an-hour winds, and it's built in a bowl. It's like all the water that runs off Narrow Mill Road
It goes right down the hill there, yeah.
pretty much washes out Rex Lewis's office and their conference room every time. So, but what we're trying to do is to safety for them. We need a 911 center so that when we demand their services because of a hurricane, because of that tornado that came through the other day, whatever, they're safe, and they're safe to be able to protect us, and that's where we have to go.
Your emergency services building office is the conference room at the jail,
Yes.
which I never knew until I was at the jail.
Yeah,
I was like, this room looks familiar. And they're like, well, you see it on TV all the time. This is the command center.
Command Center. We hope to be able to use that as a backup then, rather than
Yeah.
the main, and then the sheriff's office share a 911 center with that. So
But because it's a jail, it's a brick building, so there you go.
it is wind-wise, it's fine, yeah. But with all the problems we have with mental health and everything else, the jail needs all the space it's got too. So.
Primary is June 27th. It's 10 months away. People are announcing like crazy everywhere, especially for the clerk of court and
yeah.
state's attorney announcement. I haven't heard anyone say they're going to run for county executive. Have you?
Yeah, I hear some names. You hear them every once in a while say they're going to run against me or something like that. If they do, that's fine. It's certainly, everything is open. It was open when I ran against Rick, and that's fine too. But I don't mind that. I mean, I really don't. It doesn't scare me. The people will determine whether or not I had 10,000 people that didn't vote for me last time, so I'm sure that they probably may still be there. So the point is people will look and see if I'm doing a good job, protecting their money. And I've always said that once people realize that they have someone who's a good steward of their money, they're not going to be concerned. They're not going to be as active or as involved. It's like with the tax cap thing. I mean, Greater Salisbury is going on with this study now, and that came out in the papers and all. So wherever that lands, people want to know that the leaders that they have chosen are good stewards of their money. and I feel like I have been. You know, I don't feel like we've wasted any money. We're very conservative in that sense. The new thing coming up is you may have heard, may not have heard, is the part-time employees. Wicomico County has a rule that if you work 17 and a half hours, you're entitled to full benefits.
It's a really good deal for a part-time employee.
Too good a deal.
Yeah.
We have 25 employees that took care of 11 convenience centers. They were all part-time employees. I've changed that to make them full-time employees. I've given all those people that were part-times the opportunity to become full-times. But by doing that, we've saved $100,000 in our health insurance premiums. You know, they had to work, they worked 20 hours a week. They were making more on their insurance benefits. With a husband and wife came in, it cost Wicomico County roughly $17,000 a year for a husband and wife to be on a policy.
Right.
And these people were only making $10,000 a year on their salary. So you add that, you add pension, everything else. They were working for the benefits, and I understand that. Don't get me wrong, but that's another one of those hard decisions you've got to come up with. Do you, as a taxpayer, want someone that's 70 years old, 75 years old, just here for the benefits? I want full-time employees that are good.
Right.
And we have got a lot of great employees. I mean, landfill, solid waste, they do a great job. But, you know, there's some that want to quit and some that did not.
But as a business-first Republican, why not just contract out the landfill? Why have county employees do this? I've never understood that.
Why we wouldn't contract out? Well, first of all, we wouldn't have the control, and we wouldn't have the ability to make those differences that we need to make. We have inspectors almost twice to 3 times a week come by and make sure that we're doing a good job.
From the state, they're pretty tough, yeah.
Yeah. If we were to contract this out, you could pretty much say that we wouldn't double, but you would add almost an extra third, at least $25 more a ton to pay.
Okay.
Because we have the benefits of having, you know, a staff on hand that can do a lot. If we were to contract out, there's going to be the profit margin. Bassett Construction wants to manage our landfill. Well, you know, Bassett's going to want to make money too.
Right.
Not only the people out there, but they'll want to make money. So they will probably pay more per hour, but they won't pay the benefits that a county or a government agency does. So, you know, that's been thought about. I mean, the ferries, that's been thought about, you know.
Well, you know, when I did the Day in History, that's the way they did it for years. You know, people would sign up and they'd be interviewed by the council, and they'd pick a guy and pick a rate. You know, the guy would say, "I'll do it for $7,500." Someone else would say, "I'll do it for $5,000 for the year," and they pick the 5,000 guy.
Right. Always be careful what you get when you get the low bidder sometimes, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, it's been exciting to see some changes, and I know some people have not been happy altogether, but that's fine. You know, what bothers me more than anything, again, in this whole political climate, it's not policy, it's more personal now. I mean, it's partisan beyond anything I've ever seen before. I mean, it's not Republican, Democrat, or independent. It's ugly sometimes. It really is. And it's on a state level, it's on a national level, and it's gotten that way down to a lot of local levels.
Is there more that you can do personally to get the personalities out of it? The stuff, you know, as the leader, some kind of a mode that you can set?
Well, I would love to meet more regularly with the council, and as you know, 4 of them spoke at the Republican committee meeting about a month ago. The next day I wrote them a letter and I said, you know, if that's the way everybody feels, let's meet we meet first and third with the councils. Why don't we meet second and fourth Tuesday?
They also wanted more communication.
Right, and
Yeah.
they wanted more communication. And I said, well, let's meet. We'll meet in my office 9 o'clock, and the first 3 that sign up for that day, we'll just go with that. They came in the first time, and now John wants to do it in front of the camera. And I said, no, there's some items that we need to talk about behind the scenes or in the office, and we'll bring them out. I mean, everything will be brought out, but, you know, personnel matters, things like this, or is so-and-so doing a good, like, you know, those things need to be talked about in private. And with that being said, I mean, I don't know where it's going. If they, you know, my door's open. If they want to come in, that's great. I mean, I would love to have them come in and just talk. You know, I do regularly see John Hall. He's been an excellent communicator with the airport, and we talk regularly on that. So, and sometimes we talk about council.
He's been your biggest ally.
And that's strange too, because on council he could have been my biggest
Exactly.
foe. You know,
You guys did not get along when you served next to each other.
we got along. I mean,
Right, yeah.
I respect John, but we definitely had different opinions. You know,
Right.
And that's fine. But that's how we grew, and I respect John very much for what he's done with the airport. I mean, I asked him to be chairman of the airport commission, and he has taken that on and done a wonderful job. I mean, I see our airport becoming something. I see our airport becoming a small Raleigh or Durham airport in the years to come.
Well, and when we talk about the personalities, there's an example of where things kind of go haywire. Don Veach has before the county council. They want to know what's going on at the airport because they're reading all this great stuff. But John Hall doesn't seem to have communicated to them really what's going on at the airport. So
Well,
it's sort of an internal thing too.
it's within the council. I don't think the council, verbalizes with John a lot.
Right.
After his statement about the taxes,
Right.
that seemed to cause a little friction there, which
He supported he was against his colleagues in the way they conducted themselves during the budget negotiation.
Right. And I was shocked. I didn't know that was coming out, but you gotta, yes, I was behind him at that point in time, really strong. But
Hey, those of us in the media are all convinced that you wrote the speech.
yeah, is that right? Well, he did it much more eloquently than I could have written, I can tell you. So
Yeah, he was a big supporter. Why do you love Wicomico County? We'll do that as the last question. Why do you love this county? You could live anywhere. You're a developer. You're a smart guy. You're down there in Whitehaven. You drive 15 miles back and forth to work.
it is beautiful down there in Whitehaven.
Isn't it, though? It really is.
It's great. I get to go fishing when I get a chance to. It's usually by dark now, by the time I go. But, Wicomico County has been good to me. I've always been an entrepreneur. When I started the limousine service 35, 40 years ago, that did very well. I sold that. The paddle boats in the city park.
Isn't it funny how you're still known for the paddle boats?
I know some people didn't think I had sense enough to do anything but put somebody in a boat. But yeah, I love doing that. I love seeing the kids down there. That was the neatest part, seeing the kids and they're having a big time. But from there, I did Market Street Inn.
Right.
I did Cellar Door. I've had 2 restaurants. I've had landscaping companies. I've landscaped many houses in town that I enjoy doing. I guess the farm boy comes out in me as much as anything when it comes out doing that. So I find more peace and tranquility cutting grass or driving a tractor, just kind of having that time to think.
It is nice.
It's very relaxing. Or now I tend to go. My family doesn't farm anymore, so I tend to go fishing and enjoy that. Not that I get to keep all of them, but they're all legal, of course. So, I like what it has to offer. I really do, and I want my kids to stay here. As you say, I had a place in Palm Beach, and nice, but it's not home.
Yeah.
It's not home, and Wicomico County offers a lot to grow up and be proud of. Our 150th anniversary. We were around, of course, with the 100th
Very
anniversary.
exciting, yeah.
Zach Evans with the county
fair's
fair.
this weekend.
It's this weekend. It's going to do great. That was something we came from. About 2,000 people showed up the first year I was there. Next year we had 10,000. We fixed that carriage house up. That was all ready to be scraped down, as you can remember.
Yeah.
And we can fix things up and go with it. And that was a great example of let's fix it up instead of tearing it down. And we have. We're expecting probably 20,000 people this year. And I can't be more proud of things that we've done in that sense. The Civic Center, we have remodeled that. Part of that $5 million that Mark Kilmer's so mad that I spent has gone towards fixing that up. It's fixing up our stuff. And the extension service, we've had to put new roofs on there, put new air conditioners on there, new air conditioning system for the county courthouse building. The old courthouse building, $1 million for that. Which we were saving $250,000 a year at first to make that work.
Right.
And that ended up being $900,000. Just because over the years it's gone up and the cost of things have gone up. So, but it's going to be fixed this year, and we'll be done with that. And then we'll have to start working on pointing up the bricks, the things like that. So, it's little bits at a time. The county office building is was built in '75. It's just as old as a lot of these schools are, but it doesn't look bad because we put money into it.
You're going to kick the city out, right?
I'm not kicking it out. They've asked.
I'm doing a story about this, so you don't have to tell me now.
They have said that
they're looking to leave.
2 years, and I imagine it's going to be on lot 1. And that's good. In all honesty, it's time that we separate. We're too big. We're no longer the Henry Parkers and the Bob Powells and Norm Hollands, all that kind of stuff. Things have changed. This year I've made the announcement we're not going to be doing the city's taxes this year for them because we have personnel doing our stuff. The fire service has been another example where we've started to split ways, that sort of thing. We're 2 separate entities. We have 2 separate goals. Not goals as much as it's just the directions of how we're going to get there. The city's got to work on the folk festival. We're going to be whatever we can do to help them. That's fine. And
200,000 people coming for that thing?
That's going to be a lot of people here. I don't know. So. But, again, Jake's enthusiasm is wonderful, and I look forward to see where all this comes out.
Do you get along with him?
I do. I like Jake. He's a great guy. I like Randy, and his mom and dad are wonderful people. But
is it hard because he gets so much attention all the time?
No, I don't take selfies very well, you know. I'm sorry, I just don't do that.
Yeah, your social networking is terrible. You need to get on that.
Well, as I said, that's probably been my biggest fault. But I don't do selfies. I don't do.
You need to do that.
Well, no, probably not selfies. But
No,
anyway,
people need to know what you're doing.
well, we are starting to get out a little bit more with it. But you know, I've worked all weekend with this rain. I pumped out people's yards, this kind of stuff.
You need to tell that story.
But it's been there for the people. You know, I didn't do it for the publicity. I didn't do it for the picture on Facebook.
But I don't think he is either. It's just good communication.
I don't know. You hold your own camera up, you take your own picture yourself. I'm not too good. I don't have a stick to get me far enough away to make me look good. So, you know, it's. But I do like Jake. He's a nice young man, and I admire what he's accomplished. He's got a beautiful family. I can remember when my kids were that age, and you know, that's wonderful. So it's. But we differ politically. There's no doubt about that. But and how we're going to do it. It's the old seat versus the new seat. I mean, it's,
Right.
Mine is road experience, and his is not really sure where the road is sometimes, but he makes his own road, and that's good.
That's kind of cool.
You know,
I like
so,
that. The fair's this weekend. Ribbon cutting's on Friday.
Yes,
So if people want to get into your face and talk to you, they can come to the ribbon cutting on Friday.
I'll be there. I'll be at Mako the next 3 days,
Okay.
but I'll come back for that. I'll meet the
It's
governor.
like 3:30 on Friday.
It is. I meet the governor at 10 o'clock on Friday for the PRMC.
Right. He's going to be there to see
Right.
the work they did on the electrical system
Right.
there.
So I'll be there first, and then been right on over to that, and we'll stay there for the band. We have a local guy from Ocean City who lives in Nashville now. He's playing at the band.
Oh, cool.
Friday night. So yeah.
And the Parade of Towns is Saturday at 1:50.
Saturday we have I think we have every town, maybe one that may not make it. But
So Whitehaven has a float.
well, it's going to be me. I'm going to represent
You in the
Whitehaven.
pickup?
Yeah, I've got my grass cutter ready to go. I'm getting it cleaned up and everything. So, yeah, but it's going to be fun. You know, it's like, and we've got, this is just the first part of it. We're at that time of
Yeah.
year now. We've got the gala coming up. I hope to do something using the Midway Room with like local bands. You know, I just feel like, you know, Bone Daddies. They've been around how many years now,
Yeah.
and they're all good guys. And you know, let's have them. Let's have that average guys type thing, and that's what we want to do that too.
Yeah.
Because it's 150 years that Wicomico has been here.
pretty cool.
I got a copy of the original deed, I guess it was, when they separated. I sent that to Somerset County and said thank you, because they wish they had Wicomico back in Worcester now. But anyhow, those guys are fun to work with too, Somerset County and Worcester counties. We get along great. So.
And you didn't grow the beard.
I didn't grow the beard because mine would be grayer than your hair, but you know, I just thought maybe I would just.
I tried, but I guess I'm not man enough. I couldn't do it.
I had one when I was young, but it's just too hot for me, you know. So.
He's Bob Culver. He's our county executive. It's an election year, so watch him closely. We'll all be watching him closely. Election in 10 months. Welcome. Thanks for being here today, Bob.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this one.
I'm Greg Bassett from the Salisbury Independent Newspaper. Another edition of One on One right here on Pac 14.
First Shore Federal is proud to support PAC 14 and One on One. We'd encourage every business to support PAC 14 and pick a program and support it, and let's make a difference.